Hello, this is the new version of Clipstore, a macro I created for storing clips in Pro Tools. This new version is faster, it takes you back to the track you were working on now, and it also supports stereo. So let's see it in action. I'm going to store this clip, or set of clips. And because I've already got everything set up, I can apply processes like maybe some noise reduction or some pitch manipulation, and at each stage I can store my work. And that's it. That's how fast it works in real time. This is a session with about 200 tracks running on an M2 Mac with 64 gig of RAM. Can't think of any more relevantly boring details. And any clip, part of a clip, or combination of clips will be stored on your tracks. So with stereo, the idea is exactly the same. The only difference being you're going to trigger this with a different trigger than the mono version. So it's up to you as the user to trigger it. And you store that on a separate set of tracks because they need to be stereo tracks. So we can process this with audio suite stuff. And each time we can store our work as we go down on these tracks way at the bottom of the session, which I've created for the purpose. Before you run it, you need to go into Keyboard Maestro. Let's assume you've downloaded it, you've double-clicked it, it's opened up, and you've enabled the package here. So you've got this one, which is the mono version. Let's call that mono while we're here. And we've got the stereo version. So in the mono version, you have 4 different macros. The main macro that you have to trigger is this one, Clipstore 24816. As you can see, I've got a shortcut assigned to it. The other 3 macros need to be there, but they do not need to be triggered by you with a shortcut key. Okay, so if you have a look at the main macro, Clipstore 24816, there's some information, some explanation here in green, and the most important thing is this one. You need to assign a shortcut in Pro Tools. And it says the red action below means you need to assign a shortcut under Setup Keyboard Shortcuts. To the function Rename Tracks, I've chosen Control, Alt, and R. Doesn't matter what you choose, but it just needs to match here to whatever you choose in Pro Tools. So if you need to do that, it's going to be Setup Keyboard Shortcuts, search for Rename Track, and the default is there is no shortcut key for this. So you can assign it here, as I have done, assign it to that or something else, and save it. And that will allow the macro to work. So that is a very important setup that you have to do for this macro. Once you've done that, you can go to Pro Tools, we can select some audio, and we can trigger the macro. Now, the first time it runs, it doesn't know the name of the tracks you want to store it on. So I'm going to choose my regular name, which is unproc, with no numbers. And this session doesn't yet have any tracks, so we're going to create new. So it does its thing, creates 8 new tracks. And returns to where it was. So these 8 tracks, I am going to put into a folder. It's best to name the folder something different to the name of the tracks themselves. And we'll make those inactive. And I'm going to throw them down the bottom of the session because these are not something I need to go back to often. It's really just as a reference if I need to roll back some work that I've done previously. So we go about doing our usual audio suite business, noise reduction, pitch manipulation, whatever you like to do in audio suite. And we trigger the macro and it dumps clips or multiple clips or parts of clips. As long as they're only on one track, you can't select multiple tracks for this. You can select a whole track and Clipstore dump that. And go about your business using Audio Suite and saving clips as you did with the previous version. But now it very nicely jumps back to the track you were working on. So that's it really. That's the fundamental setup for this new version of Clipstore. Now we do have two macros. So the second macro is the stereo version. So again, you'll need to go into the stereo version and just make sure that your shortcut for rename tracks is exactly the same as the one that you assigned in the mono version. So in this case, my case, Control, Option, R. The simplest way to set this up is to use the same key command in Pro Tools. Of course, you may have assigned that to something else. As long as that's assigned in there, it works for both macros. And now we trigger the stereo version. The stereo version doesn't yet have any tracks. It stores on a different set of tracks to the mono version. I like to call them something different just to be memorable. So we call them dump st, create new. It makes some new tracks, does its little thing. And we can take those tracks and I'll stick them down the bottom again. This is a session with about 200 tracks in it. And now maybe we've got some music or some ambience or some sound design that we want to keep a record of progress. So we trigger the stereo Clipstore and it dumps things onto our stereo Clipstore tracks. And a few people asked me about why Clipstore deliberately doesn't copy and paste automation. And the reason is Pro Tools always pops up this warning that when you paste a clip, if the inserts are not exactly the same, then it'll warn you that it couldn't paste all of the automation data. Now, the chances that your Clipstore tracks have exactly the same inserts as all of the places that you're pasting from is unlikely. And to be honest, it just got in the way of working. So I decided the best way for it to work was to switch off automation follows edit so that you don't get these pop-ups, these warnings, and it just pastes the audio. So that's it for Clipstore version 2. If you'd like a copy, then send me an email. It's donationware. The recommended donation is $10, and you can do that via Buy Me a Coffee.